Yeah. So this happened. This happened. Um, Everyone's pretty shocked. I'm not the first one to say that. I'm not going to be the first one to say pretty much anything that I'm about to say in this video because people will talk about this ad nauseum for probably the rest of the time. This is going to be like when people talk about where were you when Kevin Durant signed to the Warriors? Like I remember where I was for that alert. I remember it popping up on my phone. I'm down the Cape. I'm with some friends. And I remember because the Celtics were in the running for Kevin Durant, at least like, delusionally we thought we were. And no one thought there's no way he goes to the Warriors. But that's the thing. That's what makes this a little different. At least there was thought, you know. You'd say to yourself, there's no way he goes to the Warriors. Because at least it was floated out there. There was some sort of semblance some sort of semblance of an idea that Kevin Durant could end up on the Warriors. Same thing where when he goes to the Suns, like there was some semblance of an idea that this would happen. When James Harden gets sent to the Nets, that was out there. It's hard to keep anything under wraps at all nowadays. So for this to kind of just be dropped on us as NBA fans, just like that, yeah, it was as jarring as it seems. Deserves to be covered like it is, and people will talk about this forever. I wanted to make a video for the entire deadline, but this Luka situation requires a video of its own, like a nice little 10-minute slot. And I just don't understand a lot of what's going on. So I'm going to break it down piece by piece. The first thing I'm going to do is for people that haven't found a way to, get it digested and regurgitated to them, I'm going to say just kind of like the series of events as to how this happened, how it came to be, at least from what we know right now, from what I know. Today is, what is it, the 3rd or 4th, something like that. It's Monday after it happened, 2 days later. So we don't know everything, haven't even seen the guys play, haven't even seen the team shake out yet, but I felt like it was enough time for me to at least react. I'm going to give a little timeline of what's exactly we think took place, and then I'll get into like my thoughts on stuff and what, actually is about to happen from here, and really from both perspectives. So if you want to skip ahead to that, I'll probably put like a timestamp or something. Hopefully you can just like drag the bar pretty far ahead if you already know what went down. But let me just quickly break that down for everybody. Luka Doncic and the Mavs apparently have had a pretty long-term falling out. There hasn't been those rose-colored glasses with the franchise as there was when Mark Cuban was running things there. He recently relinquished his majority ownership, by the way, for people that don't know. They haven't been seeing Luka Doncic in the same light. He hasn't shown them that he's committed to the game, that he's committed to his body, that he's committed to his conditioning, even though they just made the finals last year. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but I mean, sometimes the success doesn't always match the output. Sometimes they may have just felt like, oh, we ended up here because we built a good defense around him and we can do that with anybody or whatever the fuck they were feeling. Who really cares? It's mostly just about the fact that they didn't feel like he was putting in enough effort, no matter how good he was. And that definitely translated to the conditioning and to the body. So what happened was, from what we understand, again, during the times where they would shut him down, very recently with the calf injury on Christmas Day, they would tell him, like, hey, maybe take this time off to get in shape, whether it's an off season, an injury, whatever the case may be. Maybe they'd give him some sort of deadline where they'd say, by this date, we want you to be at this weight. We want you to be able to do these conditioning tests, And the most recent being this Christmas. It seems as though he hasn't been able to do that probably one or even two times in his career. He even came in this offseason. Some people are saying north of 270. I'm seeing north of 260 as well. But no matter what, it's outrageous. Whatever weight he was coming in at is way too high. He used the body well, but it's like it obviously broke him down in the finals. It's not good for defensive purposes. It's just there's definitely if he was in better shape, he'd be better, to be fair. But he's still a top 5 player in the NBA. So this most recent event seems to have been, again, on Christmas. He goes down with an injury, and I think they just kind of were like, hey, instead of fighting through this, let's do this one more time. Let's get you right, at least for the All-Star break, to kind of push this last leg of the season. Let's try to position ourselves to a top 4 seed in the playoffs, and let's get you in shape. So by end of January, on the 31st, we want you back here reporting to us under 260 or under 250, whatever the mark they had was. We want to be able to run these conditioning tests. So they do so, probably, and he probably didn't pass. A lot of probablys, but this is kind of what we're going off of right now, and it makes sense to me because that's what also influences the timing on this. Because again, this happened without anybody knowing. This all happened in the shadows, according to Shams Charani of ESPN, in the shadows. So we can assume that maybe the 31st he comes in, doesn't pass any of his physicals. That's a Friday. The next day, Nico Harrison decides, all right, well, this kid just simply doesn't take this seriously. Nico Harrison being the GM of the Mavericks, by the way. He decides this kid does not take this seriously. I've spoke with Kid. He knows that this is all about defense and Doncic needs to get his act together. I spoke with some of the owners, and they agree, but I'm going to go a little rogue here, and I'm going to trade him. And I'm going to go get a guy that actually fits the needs that we need right now. I'm going to go get exactly Anthony Davis and nothing else because that's an easy phone call for me. Do you want to know why that's an easy phone call for him if you don't already know? From what it sounds like, Nico Harrison used to be a rep at Nike, and he represented a lot of Kobe Bryant's deals at Nike. Rob Pelinka, GM of the Lakers, was Kobe's agent for a very long time. They've had many of these types of phone calls. Obviously, not to this magnitude, but multi-million-dollar phone calls. Calls that you and I don't just casually make. They can casually make because they've done it enough. They've talked through and around Kobe Bryant and his shoe deals and whatever the case may be. So he calls his old buddy Rob Pelinka. And this is where it becomes fully my opinion. I think this trade gets done in 1 hour. I think it was a 1 hour phone call. I think Nico Harrison knew exactly what he wanted. He knew he'd be able to get it because he had the bargaining chip in Luka Doncic. And I think he was more than excited to get his hands wiped of the situation. So I think he calls Rob Pelinka post-Lakers game. Lakers finished up around 12. LeBron had a triple-double. Maybe they finished at 11. And I think within 2 hours, Shams is tweeting out what looked like a bad tweet. It didn't look. It looked like he got hacked, to be fair. The tweet looked just poorly constructed. I think his fingers were they're firing so fast, he just couldn't believe it himself. Breaking Luka Doncic to the Lakers. So now with all that in mind, we're now here. It's 2 days later. It's a Monday night when I'm recording this. No other team has made a move in the Mavericks or the Lakers. De'Aaron Fox got traded. Who cares now? Great trade, but who cares now? And let's look at this from the Lakers' perspective. I'm going to say a lot of the same things. I'm going to try to add some of my own opinions, but this is what I'm seeing as well. Obviously, this is a move for the future. This is a move for not only now, but 10 years from now. And I think people are so focused on the 10 years from now portion, they're kind of forgetting that this actually does make you better in the current day. I know Anthony Davis is a better fit next to LeBron. I understand that. But in the end, Luka Doncic is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. And sometimes you just need to kind of throw the X's and O's out of the window, man. You need to just throw them out of the window. Because when you have a lot of talent like this together, and you have a guy like LeBron who's got the experience, and Luka who's actually got some experience now. He made a finals run. Two guys that can lead finals runs basically by themselves, playing together. They have such high IQs. They both share the ball. Yeah, they stylistically play the same. It's not like they have the ball every single possession, though. What is a high usage rate for these guys? 35%? And then there's still probably, what is that? 65% of the possession, 65% of the usage just not going to them. If they both were at 28, 29, 30% of the usage, that 60% of your possessions are handled right there with just LeBron and Doncic. Whatever way they end up figuring it out, I do think it, in a way, gives them a higher ceiling right now. And Vegas thinks the same thing, especially after they make a trade for someone like Mitchell Robinson, whoever it may be in the coming days. Because I don't think they're done yet. At least I hope not. So it makes them a little bit better now in terms of potential championship. They're not going to win a championship with Anthony Davis and LeBron and the way the team was constructed without trading Davis for something. So it gave them better championship hopes now and gave them a better future. It was a no-brainer for the Lakers, sadly. I don't think they were really dying to do it. They weren't oh, this is going to be such a fun phone call with Anthony Davis and LeBron and the media. This is going to be so fun. They weren't thinking that. But at the same time, you need to do this. LeBron's 40. He might have another 10 years in him for all we know, but probably not, So you need to prepare yourself and prepare your organization to move forward. And LeBron said in the past, he's a dream teammate of his. He'd love to play with Luka just to see what it's like, This might entice LeBron to just kind of rev it up a little bit. All right, let's show this kid how to run exactly like I did. I'm a 6'8.5" ball dominant big forward that uses his body to create space. Sounds a lot like Luka Doncic. High IQ, a lot of good passing. Sounds a lot like Luka Doncic. Just Luka needs to pick it up defensively. But maybe this is the best thing for him, And if you're the Lakers, you got to see us and be like, all right, also, we don't have to sign him to a supermax. You don't even have to give him the $335 million that the Mavericks were going to have to. We'll get into that in a minute. You only have to give him, what is it, $220 million, something like that, over a 4-year span. That's a much better investment, even better than in my opinion the 336. I still give that to him, but yeah, that you get him at a discount too, for the next decade, if that. He might only play the next 8 years or so. He don't seem like he want to be around when he's 40 at least. So we'll see how this goes, but yeah, Lakers absolute home run, obviously. On the Mavs side, I'm going to try to think of this as best I can at first. Initially, we need to understand they got better for this year, potentially next year. The Luka-Kyrie thing brought them to the finals. Me personally, I don't think they're making the finals this year with that pairing. I don't think that Kyrie and Davis will either, but I do think that might give you a better chance to actually build a better team. I know that kind of goes against what I said earlier with LeBron and Doncic being better, but I just think that when your team has such a gaping liability in Doncic, it's not like Kyrie's a good enough defender to really handle his end of the bargain either. When you got both those guys so ball dominant, but then also not playing defense, it's going to be tough, and they don't have a lot of size. Kyrie's a little bit smaller. Klay Thompson also couldn't really defend anymore, in my opinion. I do think that Anthony Davis locks them down on the inside. And you also have Lively, and Kyrie can be your best player, in my opinion. So I think this might give them a better chance this year and next year, but that's it. And if that, I might add. Doncic gives you a certain floor that only 4 players in the league can give you, and you no longer have that floor. So this might bottom out for them as well. Lakers could bottom out. Mavs could bottom out right now. But schematically, I understand it if you're the Mavericks. I understand it. If you really do believe in this defense first, defense wins championships, I get it. And I think one thing shouldn't get lost in this as well. This move takes a lot of balls. We'll get into a couple more of the reasons why after, but initially, in my mind, you don't trade a 25-year-old star, superstar, megastar. You just don't do it. It's never really happened. Like the Cavs didn't trade LeBron back in the day. It just didn't happen. I mean, the Nuggets traded Melo, but he had said he was on his way out in 6 months anyway. You just don't trade a super megastar like this. The Spurs would never trade Wemby. The Celtics would never trade Tatum. You don't do it. You just don't do it. Not at this age, not at this time. 2 years under contract. It's unprecedented. But unprecedented stuff is usually what creates the magic, in my opinion. This is what could really stop the players from just holding these teams by the balls. And who are these players, you might be wondering? Luka, I like to think, is not really grouped in with a lot of these guys, but some of the guys I got here, Zion. Zion got himself a max contract, and he is not conditioned, and he has shown some spurts. The Pelicans had a really good stretch last year where they looked like they were going to be a legit team, and then keeps getting hurt, keeps not being able to play. He keeps coming into camp a little overweight, very overweight. And it's just not working out. Now they're looking to trade him, it seems, but it's like, how are you going to find a suitor? Now you owe him all this money, and he's got the leverage, and teams don't really want him anymore. He looks like a tainted product. It's not like it was 3 years ago when you could have got a big bag for him. Same thing with Joel Embiid, in my opinion. More conditioning issues, injury issues. You worry about his longevity. And with him, it's also playoff performances. Luka's actually a good playoff performer. But same time, They never traded him. There was maybe some talks in the beginning, but that was really when it was between Simmons and him as who you wanted to go forward with. They made the right decision, but still, would they have been better off trading him? Another example, the Rockets and James Harden. I think that there's a good chance if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they win a championship that year. But same time, he had his, at work ethic in question many times, and some of his after basketball activities were quite questionable. He wasn't quite the worker that they may have hoped. They didn't get rid of him, and they paid the price. It took some time for them to rebuild. Two more examples. Russell Westbrook, you just wondered with him, was it the talent? Did he have enough talent to get you where you needed to be? I think with proper stars around him, potentially he could have been, but they didn't get rid of him, and it took them a very long time to go through that whole process, not winning championships, and finally then ending up, moving on from him, but just took too long. And then Vince Carter's a great example, old example. Did he have the motor, to do what needed to be done? He wanted out, a little different, but still, young superstar that you end up having to trade, and those situations all kind of went sour, in my opinion, or at least took too long to really make the move happen to where it was beneficial for the team. The Mavericks did the thing that none of these teams had the balls to do and just got rid of them. You're not going to put up with it. You're not going to put in the work. You're not going to come in conditioned. You're not going to care about this organization or the team. You're gone, dude. You're gone. And Piece of me got a lot of respect for it. There's a lot of respect. Now, there's a couple things that I think go into this. One, none of those guys made a finals appearance, except for Westbrook, where he wasn't the best player at the time. Also, the return that you ended up getting for Luka Doncic was an aging star, barely superstar, but superstar, aging superstar, and one first-round pick. I got a hard time giving you the pass for that package. If you go get, they would never do it, but if you go get like a Jaylen Brown, a younger superstar, and 3 first-round picks, and Derek White, maybe I get it. You get a role player, really good role player, damn near star, a superstar, a couple picks, and you get rid of this super mega ultra top 5 player, this MVP candidate. They didn't get that in return. They didn't shop for it. They didn't want anything else. They only wanted Tony Davis. Yeah, I'm calling you Tony, pal. Also, not telling any coaches. You didn't tell the owner. This must have been just Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka. This was a 2-person conversation. For it never to leak anywhere, people were like, I don't believe LeBron didn't know. LeBron had no idea. I fully believe it. I think every other time, he knew. Every other thing that happened in the organization, he had 100% had his fingers in the pulse. He had no idea. None of them did. This was a 2-man operation for the most part. Maybe Rob Pelinka calls J.J. Redick right before he submits the trade, but it was going through anyway. This was not something that many people talked about. I just don't understand how you could be Nico Harrison and pull the trigger on that without talking to Jason Kidd, man. How do you not talk to your head coach? It's written all over Kidd's face in that interview. Go look up the Nico Harrison interview post-trade with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, the amount of times he deflected this as, yeah, this is Nico Harrison's vision, and I fully support it. It's all Nico Harrison. It's his decision. It's his vision. It's his scheme. It's his team. He doesn't want any piece of this. He knows not to trade Luka Doncic. He's not out of his mind. And I think the biggest portion of this, I love the balls. I love the balls that it takes to make a move like this. You're not doing what we need you to do. You're gone. Even if you're the superstar talent. I would have liked more returns. But even if he did get more returns, there's one gigantic error in this. Dallas is not this untouchable market. It's not LA. You're not LA. You might not come into another superstar for another 20 plus years, pal. You might run this Kyrie, Anthony Davis experiment, asking for a knee injury, maybe not even good enough, even if you are fully healthy. You're barely good enough to make it out of the West. Forget win the finals, which they could, but I just doubt, especially on this sort of a window. You have a year and a half, in my opinion. You have a year and a half. This half and next year. Good luck building the chemistry this year, and good luck dealing with the regression next year. Because you got Clay, you got Kyrie, you got AD. They all blow. They're good, but they're injury prone and they're old. You are not LA, man. You're not LA. You're not gonna come into superstars all the time. You're not Boston, where, granted, we just draft well. Sorry, I hate to say it, but we'll find our superstars. These are huge markets. You're not Chicago. I guess San Antonio. I don't know how they do it, but you don't always have superstars, dude. There's a reason Milwaukee won't get rid of Giannis. They're trying everything they can not to. There's a reason Portland didn't get rid of Dame for such a long time. You're not going to just fall into these guys. It's hard. You may have gotten rid of your one chance at having a superstar for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And your fans are going to be the ones that pay for it, which is what really sucks. Nico Harrison will be gone. He'll be fired. He'll move on. He'll go back to Nike and be another VP of operations or whatever. And he'll be fine. But the fans are going to have to pay for it, and that's not okay. In the end, this reminded me of this time I was watching Felger and Maz. I hate that show, but I was watching Felger and Maz, and I remember Felger said the most intelligent thing I ever heard him say. And this was when they were drafting Lonzo Ball. So this was before LeBron. This was before AD. And he said, you know what? The Lakers always just find their way into a good situation. They'll always find a way to make it work. It'll always work out for them. And man, has he been proven right over these past few years, getting LeBron, getting AD, getting now Luka Doncic. They'll always find a superstar. And that, again, doubles down on that point. Dallas, you are not LA. You will not always back your way into a superstar, and you just got rid of your guy. And it's overweight issues, It's overweight issues. That's something that most of America is dealing with right now. If you don't think you're good enough as an organization to maybe work with him and get him over the hump with these weight issues, you're not going to win a championship. If you can't get one guy to cut out the burgers, how are you going to be able to motivate your team to win a championship? Does that make sense to anybody either? How is that going to work? To wrap this all up, it is a rule of thumb. Do not trade your 25-year-old MVP caliber player that is not disgruntled. Do not do it, especially coming off of a finals appearance within your first 6 years in the league. Unless this works.